All right, so we're gonna talk Loki.
Let's talk Loki.
Yep.
All right, Rick, I want to hear your thoughts on it because you said it was a weird episode or something.
It was just kind of hard for me to follow. Not really hard for me to follow, but there's just so much going on with this time variance group of people or whatever, the TVA. And I don't know, like not being as familiar with all that stuff, it's just like you're thrown into a lot of information and details that like you've got to really follow along with to understand, which I mean, as you should with any show. But you know, I don't know really how to explain the fact that I thought it was weird. It was just also weird seeing Loki and like being helpful and being like funny. And I mean, he's obviously kind of comedic relief to begin with, but just like his relationship with Owen Wilson's character Mobius, and it was interesting.
Would so you think he was actually being helpful, or do you think he's being a mischievous scamp?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, he is Loki,
That's
god of
true.
mischief.
Here's the thing, too. Not to jump to the end, but I'm going to jump to the very end of the episode real quick. And John, I want your take on this as well. So at the very end, well, first, okay, let's not skip to the end because we gotta talk about we gotta talk about stuff here. So mainly, in my opinion, there's not a whole lot to talk about other than the fact that I believe my theory was 100% correct in the fact that I thought the variant was not Loki, not Lady Loki, and I thought it was Enchantress. And according to some, I think it was the
Alienware.
There's the Alienware. That's the thing too, dude. For this is supposed to be 2050. This looks like a very just not
Best
2050. Yeah, this looks like Best Buy. Like this looks like technology.
There was a
from
Cuisinart
today.
sign. There was a lot of
but
monitor like
okay, but
better than that.
But here's the thing. Back in the 60s, I mean, we're talking like 30 years away, right? From 2050. We're only 30 years away from that. Back in like the 60s and 70s, which we are now 40 to 50 years away from, they were doing like futuristic stuff like flying cars and like stuff like that. We don't have flying cars yet. Like people always completely overdo it on what the future is going to look like. So I actually, because I thought the same thing at first, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give him credit for reining it in. Like, just calm down with that.
I will secede to you on that. Okay, I will give you that. And it says like this is a desktop gaming aisle, Alienware, gaming monitors, gaming desktop, something, gaming.
Assuming you're not gaming through your brain by this point, like thanks to Elon Musk.
Yeah, he's in the gaming aisle. But nevertheless, I believe it was the Argentina credits, if I'm not mistaken. At the end, where is a picture of the girl? I just want the girl. So there's the girl. Nope, there's the girl. Either way, the credits from Argentina, I believe it was Argentina, it credits her as Sylvie. In the comics, Enchantress's name is Sylvie something. I can't remember what the hell it is right now. So this is different though than when. What am I thinking of? If you remember back when WandaVision was out, people were freaking out because they turned on the audio descriptive, descriptive audio closed captionings, and it said, Quicksilver from the X-Men universe enters the room or whatever. And people freaked out. Like, and it's like, this is completely fucking different, though. This is an actor being credited at the end of the credits. This is not descriptive audio, closed captioning, shit like that. Like, in every other language, she's listed as the variant.
Yeah.
But in this one language, they fucked up and said it was Sylvie.
Right.
So what do you think? It always has sub from Connection 2011.
What up, man?
Speaking of Connection 2011, this store looks like it's from 2011.
It really does.
Like I was just saying. But nevertheless, so you think that my theory here was right? You thinking this is Enchantress, or do you think this is
I don't know enough about it to guess if it's Enchantress or not, but
Well, the main thing here is, like I said, this is the thing. The fucking what's her name in the comics? The
Sylvie.
Enchantress name.
Isn't Enchantress a DC character too?
Yes. She was in the Suicide Squad
Yeah,
movie.
Cara Delevingne's
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, her name is Sylvie Lushton, but she just goes by Sylvie. Sylvie. Like it's fucking Sylvie. It's fucking Enchantress, dude. I
Yeah.
said it before. You heard it here first. Now it's obviously after the show, so people think I didn't say
Copyright
it, but I
Rob
fucking
Bifo.
said it, dude. I said it. Said this was gonna be Enchantress. Where's your space at with it, John? You think it's official now? You think they fucked up in the credits?
No.
You don't think so?
That or they don't care that. I mean, I also don't know that they care really that
That's
people know
how-
that it's her.
how I kinda
You
feel.
know, I
Well, if
The-
they thought that though, then why didn't they tell us a name, and why were we misled to think it was Loki or Lady Loki? And you know what I mean? And
Right.
then in every other language, it said the Variant. It didn't say Sylvie.
well, I didn't look at other I didn't even look at the credits because I don't know. I'm not trying to jump the gun on the actual story. Like they have to put the credits in because people need to be given credit for their roles. But like I don't feel that's part of the show. Like they don't when they're sitting down to write the script, they don't write the credits out at the end of the script. So I don't know. I mean, it could be they just fucked up. I don't know.
Well, do you think it's Enchantress though? Put it that way.
It could be. I mean, sure. It makes as much sense as
Yeah, because there it is. It's Sylvie, Loki, Sylvie, blobby, blobby.
okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Which one was it? Was it the Argentine? Yeah, people too. I never understood this. People were saying her acting was bad. She was in it for all of like 3 seconds.
I thought she was fine.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking? She said like 2 lines. Like, what was bad about what she said? I don't
That's what she said.
people are crazy, dude. Yeah, Sylvie, blah blah blah. And then nevertheless though, what did you think of the episode, John? Sylvie aside, Enchantress aside, Lady Loki aside, how did you feel about the episode?
I want to like it more than I do.
How I feel.
It's not that I don't like it. I like it. I just it was weird. Like there were a couple scenes like and I hope this all comes into play maybe later on. Like maybe they're slow. It feels a little slow. Maybe they're slow burning it too because I don't know. I felt like there was little things like okay, so I'm dancing around. I'll just come out and say so. Like when Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston, when Loki and Morbius are walking, at one point they're walking in front of like the giant statues that are outside. You can see through the big windows the giant statues of the Time Variance Authority, and like they're walking over to a desk. And I just watched it, so that's how I know. Like, and Owen Wilson's like, "Oh yeah, you can sit at this desk and look and stuff." Like the special effects look kind of subpar. Like
They really
it
do.
looked like they were in front of a green screen. Like it looked like, back from the early 2000s, like when you used to have people stand in front of green screens, like you could kind of tell where the real them finished and then the CGI background was inserted. And so there was little things like that that kind of pulled me out of this particular episode. The parts I really enjoy are like they're at their when they went and met in the cafeteria and they're having their Morbius and Mobius and Loki are having their conversation about predeterminate like predestiny and like if everything's predetermined already, like does any of it matter and what's this and the other thing. Like I found that stuff enthralling. Like I was
Kinda
like,
deep.
oh yeah, this is what I'm here for. This is what I want. This is the high bar that these shows, aren't afraid to touch on these subjects and talk about. And that I loved. But there was other stuff. This whole conversation between Owen Wilson's character and the woman that's supposedly getting her instructions from the time authority or whatever they call these guys
Timekeepers.
was Timekeepers. That was kind of like it kind of just went on, and like some of the jokes fell flat for me, and I don't know. It's the first this show so far has been the first time in a while that I've watched a Marvel thing and thought, okay, well, I mean, I still like it. It's good. I hate saying this. They're a victim of their own success. They set such a high bar for me that if something doesn't get to that bar, it becomes kind of evident for me that like there's something quite off. And maybe it's all part of it. Maybe the Time Authority isn't as all powerful or as important or as knowledgeable as they are presenting themselves to be. Maybe it's Loki's whole thing from the first episode about they make themselves seem more, and so maybe all this is intentional. Maybe they're making this seem kind of mundane and boring because these people aren't as important as they claim to be. I don't know. I don't know if they would get that meta with it where they like intentionally put out parts that aren't as enthralling or exciting because they're trying to psychologically make these people seem less than they are. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm not sure that tangent makes any sense.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
My question is I got two questions. Do you think that kind of like with what we were going on with like the illusion, right? You know, thinking like the timekeepers are doing like the referencing back to what Loki said about the illusion to, you know, give the illusion of control. This woman who's like the judge lady, Slayer or whoever, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson said that he's never even met the timekeepers. He asked her like, "How are they?" Like, you know, like, and he told Loki or whoever, like, "I've never even met them." Like, whatever. And then she apparently has met them and is like taking orders directly from them. Do you think that
Yeah.
they even exist right now? Like, do you think they're like she's
possible.
even talking to anybody?
It's possible they don't.
Yeah, I mean, this could all be a ploy from her, you know.
Like, what if they're missing and like she's the only person in control? So, like, what if they went missing and they're adhering to the sacred timeline because, like so strictly, like they are right now, because like they don't know any better because the timekeepers are gone.
Right.
So it's like all they
Yeah.
can do is maintain the timeline. And like, what if?
Well,
Yeah.
that's part of like the whole thing of this show is like how much of any of this is actually real. Like, you know, Loki sees what he thinks are infinity, although that's not, well, they could have swapped it out. Loki sees what he thinks are infinity stones in that first episode, but if the time variance authority is all smoke and mirrors, then maybe those were just regular stones. Maybe they weren't like actual
Yeah.
infinity stones.
Like placeholders or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like they know what they look like, so they recreated some stones to look like them. And because if you can't actually use them, how can you confirm that they're the real deal? Like,
True.
you know,
Well, he went and got the Tesseract, presumably that he brought with him.
that was why I said like he could have swapped. They could have swapped it out. Like, because that was my first thought was, well, no, he did have the Tesseract, but they took the Tesseract from him before they took him back there, and so what he ended up getting could have been like a facsimile if they had swapped it out, and like he didn't know that they had swapped it. So yeah, I it probably isn't. It's just maybe it's me hoping it is. I don't know.
I think the TVA is 100% real. I just don't
Yeah.
know if like
If the
I don't think it's
timekeepers are
I
real.
think it's gonna break. Like I think by the end of this, there's not gonna be a TVA anymore, and
Something's
it would
gonna happen.
obviously tell, narratively speaking, would be an easy way to go into Multiverse of Madness.
Sure.
Like it would
No,
explain a
and
lot of
that
things.
I kind of made the same assumption that like if there is a single timeline right now that this is what creates the multiverse or whatever for them or recreates it, I guess.
Yeah. Do you think there's any
I
significance to this pen, by the way? Because they focus in on this pen. I would never think anything, but they literally zoom in on this pen. Who do you know in
yeah, I
Marvel
couldn't.
Comics that it's Franklin D. Roosevelt High School? Anybody important that you know of? I
No,
couldn't think off the top of my head.
but I mean, it could be a deep dive. I mean, it could be.
Because that's another thing too. Is like he says he doesn't remember this pen. I don't know why he would remember this pen, but why would they have this line of dialogue and focus on this pen for like no reason? I feel like this has to come back into play at some point.
Or maybe
Like,
they're just doing it
Yeah.
to throw you off. I mean,
like what if the Timekeepers are gone and we know Kang is going to be in Ant-Man 3? What if Kang has like kidnapped or like, done something with the Timekeepers? So like that's why no one has seen the Timekeepers. And like that's
Yeah.
why, because if the Timekeepers aren't around right now, here's the thing: if the Timekeepers and the TVA are this all-powerful like organization that controls time and like completely obliterated the multiverse and made this sacred timeline, how in the fuck is some random variant, Loki or Lady Loki or Enchantress variant, causing as much chaos as they are?
yeah.
Doesn't that
that's a good
seem a
point.
bit like it doesn't seem like these all-powerful beings would even allow this to happen? Like
Right,
it'd even
you'd
be
think they'd stop
possible.
it before it even begins. Like,
Yeah. Like it's like so I'm kind of thinking that they're like MIA right now. Because you got to think if they're powerful enough to create this sacred timeline, they have to be able to just like blink somebody away if they wanted to.
right. I mean, they're like all powerful.
And now, like, granted, like I like the logic that they applied in the show by having the variants hide out in these apocalypse eras because they would be undetectable. I liked that lot. They're actually because that's
That
the
makes
problem.
sense.
Yeah, the problem with any time travel, anything is like if you think hard enough on it, and like even without even thinking hard enough about it, you're gonna find a plot hole. Like I said in Discord to you guys, I don't know if you saw because it was kind of like I didn't want to forget about it, but like they said that this Loki, because he picked up the Tesseract, he's a variant. But ergo, in Endgame, the events that unfolded because he picked up the Tesseract, Tony and Cap had to go back in time to get a different Tesseract. So that would, technically speaking, make them variants from that point on because they wouldn't have done that if Loki didn't take the thing, and him taking the thing made him a variant. So
Yeah.
Cap and
Yeah.
Tony would then be variants. You know what I mean?
It
And
gets
then-
a little too deep with that stuff, and that's where it's a little
Right.
confusing to me. Like,
Well, that's why, like, after that, I would argue that you could argue this either way is that then the events with Thanos coming from 2014 and 2018 and actually fighting and then Tony snapping him away, whether or not Loki took the Tesseract or not, all that was still going to happen because they took the Tesseract initially anyway. So, like, it was only Steve and Tony going back to get the second Tesseract that would have been the variant. Technically.
Yeah, I mean my only thing that possibly, I mean, again, you can maneuver these things as much as you like to make it fit, but my only thing is that maybe Loki wasn't supposed to pick it up and abscond with it. Maybe he was supposed to. Maybe the Tesseract was supposed to fall at his feet, and one of the other Avengers was supposed to walk back in and pick it up and secure it in the original timeline. Maybe it was Loki actually escaping with it.
Yeah,
Created the
exactly.
variants, like
Yeah, exactly.
and then Steve and Tony would have still had to go back in time because they would have lost access to it in that time. And I don't know.
Yeah, the fact that he took it and left created the variant, and because he took it and left, they had to go back and get another one. So that would, technically speaking, have to be. Sorry, I thought there was a spider on me, but that would technically, by their own logic, make them variant at that point.
right.
Now they were supposed to always get the Tesseract, so everything else, like they said, everything that happened in Endgame, all the time traveling that the Avengers did, that was all supposed to happen. That's fine.
Yeah.
But them doing, or Loki taking that Tesseract, which forced them to go back and get another one, all of that would be a variant. So, like, Loki was fucking right when he said in that courtroom, like, well, I think this is the Avengers' problem. Like, they obviously went back in time and did this.
Right.
So, fuck them. But yeah, I'm on a different camp. I like this episode a lot. I don't think it was as strong as the first one, just because the first episode was like the introduction to everything, so
Yeah,
there
that
was
kinda
just a
weighs
lot more
down.
intrigue.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I liked this one a lot, though. I did like it. I just think it kind of, even though this one was like 50 some odd minutes long, I feel like it could have like kept going a little bit. Like, could have used a little bit more.
Yeah, I can.
You know, I mean,
See what you mean.
maybe some things could have been removed, like, because like they had that whole scene where they went to like at the Renaissance Fair. Like, I really didn't need to be there.
They really
Like,
did.
they could have swapped that out and had like something else happen at the end instead. But again, I liked the whole like
but there's
hiding in the
something.
stuff. Do what?
But he needed to abduct one of the agents because there's something going on with that agent, and she saw something, right?
That's true. We should talk about that because what do you think she's talking about? Because she said like it's real. It's real. Like,
Yeah,
what is she
I was.
talking about?
I
don't
think
know.
she's talking about the fact that either the Time Variance Authority isn't altruistic, that they are manufacturing this whole thing to have one timeline that benefits them and them alone, so they're actually the villains of the story, or she's that there are multiple timelines and they are just preserving one particular one, and the other ones are being hidden from them, and maybe she was exposed to the fact that there are other ones out there, and she, like maybe that's what this other Loki's or this other villain's Enchantress, whoever it ends up being, maybe that's her goal, is to shine a light on the what the TVA is actually doing
Yeah, because
and expose them.
it would make sense if she's saying it's real and maybe she's meaning like the multiverse is real
Right.
or
Mhm.
something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Because they think it's not real because they stop it, quote unquote, but like maybe it's
Yeah.
not. Or maybe
Can we-
there's
can we-
something.
Can we just for a second touch on the fact that the TVA is kind of in a way worse than any Thanos or any other villain? I mean, they
100%.
literally wipe out entire universes
Yeah.
of people and kill. Like Thanos wiped out half the universe. The TVA, every time they set off one of
They
those
destroy
bombs,
timelines.
wipes out an entire timeline, including everybody and everything that ever would exist from that
Oh, yeah.
timeline. Like,
It's
yeah,
fucky. That's why, like, when Loki
Yeah.
said in the first episode, like, is this the most powerful whatever in the universe or whatever? It's like, yeah, dude, it literally is. Which is like, I
Mhm.
think that's why, like, I think the ultimate goal for this Enchantress, Lady Loki, whatever person is to like stop the TVA from existing. Because like Loki even said like to her, like, you know, we should team up or whatever so they can control the TVA and like whatever, or like replace the timekeepers. And she's like, I don't want to do that. Like that's not what
Yeah.
that's not my goal
Right.
here. I don't want to usurp the timekeepers. Like, so her obvious goal, like logically, would be to like destroy the timekeepers. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like get rid of this sacred timeline
Right.
bullshit. You know, which frankly, it seems like the right thing to do. Because like you said, like these dudes just go around and they delete fucking existence itself for people.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And it's like they're like dictating essentially what people can do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like Loki didn't do anything wrong necessarily there. He just got out of a shitty situation.
Right.
Like,
It's an interesting philosophical, like they are preserving peace among the timelines by only having one, so you're not having deaths across multiple timelines and stuff, but at the expense of literally annihilating any variant timeline that pops up. So like, is that really better? Like, would you rather, is the greater good to have multiple timelines where they're at war and people are dying across timelines, or is the greater good to have a single one that where you literally annihilate every other thing that pops up? Like, I personally kind of feel like they're killing or destroying more entities, more living beings with their method than would be lost in the war, because at least in the war you have the assumption that some of those other multiverses are still existing, and you
Right.
still have some percentage of life left in those other branches. So it's a weird, it's almost too big of a concept to actually comprehend, but it's yeah.
it's hard to know without knowing what the ramifications of a multiversal war would be.
War.
Right.
Sure.
You know, so it's like it seems like they're doing a bad thing, but at the same time, like, what happens if they're not doing it? Like,
Right.
it's like,
They may be
Well,
stopping a bad thing.
who knows? I'm
yeah, I
sure all
mean,
this will be explained in some way. Like,
it's like, what if the France, the United Kingdom, Sweden, Russia, Japan, and the United States all got into a war, and like people were alive and all, but in order to achieve peace, like we just annihilated everybody except for the United States or except for like, I don't know. I guess that doesn't really work that well, but like you
conceptually, I
annihilate
know what you're
everything.
saying, though. Yeah,
You annihilate everything except for yourself in order to achieve peace. And every time somebody pops up, you annihilate them. Is that necessarily better than, I don't know, than a state
right.
of war? I don't know.
It's
Right.
hard
Yeah.
to say because,
Part
like,
that
that
is
essentially is what it is. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a tricky thing. Like, it's impossible to know without knowing what the ramifications for not doing it is. I guess you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like, it's because I mean I don't know. Like, if there's a multiversal war and that would lead to literally the destruction of everything, well then yeah, I guess maybe deleting some variants here and there is probably a better way to go about it. But who knows? My thing is too at the end, literally the last kind of thing that I have with this. So is like, okay, actually two things. Did you notice the targets of her bombs were all places that we knew? Like, and there were a lot of events that, like, there were a lot of places the Avengers went to, like, during, like, the Endgame time frame. Like Vormir was one of them.
I didn't.
I didn't
I
notice
didn't
that. Yeah.
like. I didn't. I was watching on my TV and I just watched. I didn't. I didn't see. I don't know if I had to pause it or what, but I wasn't
Yeah,
able to
there
focus that much on
I
it.
forget what they all were. I'd have to look it up. Like Volmir, where the Soul Stone and Red Skull was one of the targets
Sure.
for the bombs, and like I think Asgard was one of them. I like New York was I think one of them. Like there was all places we were familiar with. So it's like, was that a significant thing? Like she's doing it like at those specific locations for a purpose,
Right.
or
Or is it just happened to be that?
yeah, or did they just simply put those in there because they knew that like the audience would know what the fuck they were? Like you know what I mean? Like it didn't really mean anything. We just know that you
Yeah.
guys know where those locations are, so we didn't want to put like New Jersey and then
Right. They
like, well,
want to
what's
make it
going on in New
familiar.
Jersey? Yeah, exactly. Just giving you something like we know that place, so it has more impact than just like we're gonna do it to Colorado, like
Right.
for no reason.
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
And then so that might mean something, might not. I guess we'll find out more next time. But then at the very end here, so this scene. Do you think he's leaving? Like, do you think he goes through this portal to be a mischievous scamp, or because he actually like wants to help Mobius, and he's just like, I don't have time. Like, if I try to sit here and talk to Mobius and them, this thing is going to close.
I honestly think he's trying to help him.
Like, I honestly, like, I'm kind
I
of
didn't even think
torn.
about
Like,
that until you said it.
I think he actually went through more so. Maybe I think he went through to get answers more so than anything, but I don't know if it was necessarily only for personal gain.
I don't think
Like
so. I mean,
I think he is a little bit on the fence with it. Like I think he wants answers.
everything he's seen, I think, has kind of changed his mind on things.
Yeah. Like I think part of Loki has definitely like turned a new leaf,
Yeah.
but I don't think that like if something comes into his lap that is a 100% pure benefit to him, percent, he's gonna do it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think he would necessarily betray and like stab Mobius in the back, kind of thing.
I have seen him stab people in the back like 50 times.
Like 50 times, I know. So, like, I don't know. I think in this instance, though, I think he went through that portal just because, like, he had to, because it was going to close otherwise. And, he wouldn't have another, he may not have another chance to, like, talk to this person again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's really all.
Now that you say it,
intention
I do
was.
think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. Now, obviously, if he goes through there and they're talking, and she tells him her evil plan, and he's like, "I like this. Let's do this." That could still happen. Like he could. Like I said, I don't. I think the most important person to Loki is still Loki. But I don't know. I don't think he did it for purely selfish reasons. Like going through there, I think he did it just to get some answers. You know what I mean? Like I
His
think if he
face
could,
expression didn't look like I'm up to no good. It looked
Yeah.
like I've got to get this done.
yeah, exactly. Because he didn't do like that Loki smile, like haha, got you again. Like he just,
Yeah, it was like, this is stressing me out.
yeah, he's just like, I gotta go because this fucking thing's gonna close. Like for
And if
sure.
and they're not going to want me to
I-
do this, so I've just got to cut the BS
Yeah.
and do it myself.
Like I think if he could call Mobius, like as soon as he got through there and got answers, I feel like he probably would. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel with it. I don't think he.
So
would
do you
just
think? Do you think his
it.
conversation with her about join me so we can take over the Timekeepers? Do you think that was a ruse? Do you think he was trying to trick her?
I think he
Yeah.
was.
I think because that's the way Loki operates. So like he would totally present this opportunity to her, and if she joins him, cool. And like they would, let's say that like she totally joins him and like so they go and they go fist fight Mobius and all this stuff. They fist fight the TVA, whatever. If they win, cool. If they lose, he just says that he manipulated her to fight. It was all an act. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're right.
Like that's how Loki would operate. You know, like he's always looking out for himself. You know what I mean? So like I could totally
I
see
think
it
he's-
going either way.
I think he's just looking for the power. I think he recognizes that this woman or this person has more power than he has, and more power seemingly than the TVA with their kind of, ultimate power in all of existence. Yet this person is able to outwit them and outsmart them and, maneuver around them. So this person may even be stronger in power than them. And I think he's just following the power. He's like,
100%.
I think and to me in that scene, he was weighing, do I stay here with him and my connection to possibly the Timekeepers, who seem to be the guardians of existence itself, or do I go after this other person who seems to be able to, make them look like fools and like seems to have more power than them? And I think he went with, he's always in search of that more power. So
I totally agree. Do you think though if he goes through there and has a chat with her and figures out like the whole plan, do you think he would either, because I feel like there's multiple options here. He could either just join her in her cause or join her in her cause just to betray her and usurp her and control all the power.
Sure.
Or like I guess C would be learn all of that stuff and then tell Mobius, but still take the power.
You could do that too, yeah.
Like, because I don't feel like he's faking this connection with Mobius is the thing.
I don't get that.
Like, I feel like he genuinely
no, but I also
would, like,
don't
choose to save him if he could.
Sure. And but I mean, that's the same relationship that he had with Asgard and with Thor and I don't doubt for a second that he feels a kinship with Mobius and that he would, want to help him out and stuff if he could, but not at the expense of, he will also stab him in the back if it means advancing his own agenda or his own cause, like just as he did Thor numerous times. Like, yeah, he's trying to play a longer con than anybody, and like he'll do what he has to get there, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have genuine affection or whatever for other people.
Yeah, the most important person to Loki is definitely Loki.
Oh yeah.
Other people.
Like that's 100% where I think. So but I do think he's likes Mobius. I don't know. I'd like to think he likes Mobius because I would like Mobius to stick around because I like the Mobius character. Like, in all honesty.
Honestly,
yeah.
As not a huge Owen Wilson fan, like I've really enjoyed him in this. He's been good. Yeah, he's been really good. I like Owen Wilson. I just like people love Owen Wilson. I've never quite there have been some things I've seen him in that I thought he was a little much. But yeah, he's been excellent in this so far.
Yeah, I like him. Yeah.
Wedding Crashers is phenomenal. So I mean, like,
Dude,
I love that movie. So
that's one of the best movies ever made, dude. 100%.
Yeah,
they're making another one.
Yeah, so I mean, I love Owen Wilson in some stuff, but there's also, like I said, just some. So I was kind of curious how I'd feel about him in this. So far, I've really liked him.
They are making another one, and as you can see, she's called the Variant in our English.
That's such a weird. So here's this whole thing. That's such a weird
Oh,
That's such
another
a
thing
weird
too.
mistake to have been made.
Before I forget, another reason that like makes me believe, obviously, that kind of confirmed my initial theory that this is not a Loki variant. When he first confronts her and is fighting with her, he literally says, "I would never do this to myself." You know what I mean? Like as
Yeah.
he's throwing, like as he's getting thrown around and beat up, he literally exclaims, like, "I would never do this to myself." Like, what's going on? You know, like
Right.
as that was like my almost confirmation for me immediately that well, yeah, it can't be. It's not Lady Loki or anything like that. Die Variante, as in Deutsch.
German,
Trying to
yeah.
see
This
if
is this is a Marvel thing that I have hanging above my computer desk here that I never even we're just sitting here talking about it, and I looked up and I threw a picture in Discord, but that's who's directly above me right now, like literally. It was pretty random.
yeah, there it is. That's funny.
That's it.
Confirmation. She's there.
There
Well, that
she
was the
is.
other interesting thing too, is that like when when Loki like first when someone calls her Loki, I forget who it was, she was like, "Don't call me that." Like, I hate when people call me
Yeah.
that. Which was weird because
Loki calls her Loki.
yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
who else would have been calling her Loki if she's well, I mean, it also just proves that she's not Loki too at the same time.
Unless all her interactions with the Time Variance so far, they've called her Loki because they believe her
Yeah.
to be Loki. So she was just aggravated, like, okay, you guys keep doing that. Stop it.
That's another thing too that's like it takes me back to like the Timekeepers, like in how like I don't think they're even around because like how do they not know who this is? Like
Right.
if it's Enchantress and it's not Loki in any way, shape, or form, how do they fuck that up? Why do they even think it's Loki? Or is it just
Mhm.
something that like
Well, here's the other thing.
why
Like,
would they think it's Loki?
there's that, and then there's also the fact that they don't know what the ending is. They know at the
Yeah.
beginning, they know at the now, and they know at the future, but they don't know what the end is. Like, how do they know the end that they want to get to isn't affected by something that happened 1,000 years ago? And like, how do they know that the sacred timeline is the sacred timeline if you don't know what the ultimate end is and what the goal is? Because like any of these
Yeah.
variations that you're stopping could be the thing that leads you to the ending that you're wanting.
Yeah,
True.
because exactly. Mobius made it sound like the Timekeepers are constantly unraveling this timeline and they're going and deleting these variants and all that stuff because it doesn't fit in the timeline. But if they don't know the end, that means the Timekeepers are still doing the multiversal war and ending it to the most, but they haven't completed it to the end. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
exactly right. Like, how do they know then? Well, I guess they would know because they're looking at like they're looking like right here, and they know right here they've gone up to this part, so everything's good up to here. So when Loki takes a tesseract at this part that they already know what here is, so that needs to not happen. So then, like
Yeah,
anything else after that, maybe they have to let all the variants after this point keep playing out, and then
but
like
here's
whatever. I don't know.
like here's a me trying to like distill this down to a much more simplified form. If I'm trying to drive to a place I've never been before, and the road ahead of me, the road from me to that place hasn't been finished yet. It's been finished, 10 miles up the road, but it hasn't been finished completely yet. And I start driving along that stretch of road that's been completed. How do I know that that road doesn't end up in a dead end and I needed to make a left 3 miles back and take a different road which actually loops around to the end that I want to be at? Like
Navigation.
but if the road is literally being built as we're going along and like maybe something happens on this particular road I'm on, like maybe it runs into a river and there's no bridge across to get me to where I need to be, so I would have had to have taken a different road 5 miles back to get around the river to get to where I need to be.
This is the problem with time travel.
Yeah,
Frank's
I
just
don't know.
shaking his
We're getting
head.
deep into this to the point where I'm like,
Well, it just makes you think too much.
yeah.
Because it's the same. It's the same as like I said before. It's like when you think too much about it, you'll always find a fucking loophole or some plot
Yeah.
hole, or there's something that could be explained and they didn't explain. So then it's like Steve and Tony. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're by their own definition, they're variants. Like,
Yeah.
but they're not addressing that in any way, shape, or form. Even in Endgame, they broke their own rules of time travel. Like Old Man Steve couldn't have even happened based on their own fucking rules. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's just a I don't know.
It's a mess.
I hope that they like make it all make sense and there's more meaning to it. I'm sure they will. I hope, but part of me is kind of thinking that like at the end of this thing, the timekeepers are just going to be gone, or we're going to learn they've been gone, and the sacred timeline has all been a ploy by Kang, and like there shouldn't be a multiverse, there shouldn't be a sacred timeline, and like Kang's orchestrating it to do his thing, and then we think that we stopped the timekeepers at the end and we win, but realistically, all we did was stop Kang from doing what he wanted to do, and now he's all pissed off. And that's when he comes in Ant-Man 3 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I could see
possible.
that.
Who knows? I don't know. That's pretty much all I got for Loki.
Yeah. My mind's kind of like blown right now.
I feel that.
Right.
Well, there it is. There's our live spoiler review, unlike we normally do on the show. There it is.